Okay, this is the what I use for a lot of my team building stuff is Pokemon Showdown. Um, I'll include a link down below if you guys want to check it out. But anyways, you can save different teams and you can do all kinds of stuff. You can do your format, and there's all different kinds of formats here. So I'm going with anything goes. But for example, you can do right here is Little Cup. So you have Little Cup options. And anyways, what it allows you to do is basically set up a Pokemon and build it however you want to. So we can actually open up and you can export, import, you can save it. But you can see here, and I will say that Pixelmon does seem to line up. This, of course, this is using stats and stuff from the the canon games. But it does seem to all line up well. But you can see we can set the level, the gender, the happiness, the shiny. Of course, I just tend to leave this happiness. I'm not using any happiness-based attacks, and chances are you'd probably max it, I think for most cases anyways, just through natural play. Gender normally doesn't matter, but of course Nidoking's always going to be male, Queen's always going to be female. You can do shiny if you want to, and it will change. See, there's the shiny. And then you can do, of course, this is your Pokemon, and you can go through and you can select all different kinds of Pokemon. And then you can do the held item, and it'll display all the different held items. It's going to tell you popular items, and it's even going to go down to these are specific items for specific types of Pokemon. And then if we go down, there's useless items, stuff that's not used very often. Like Macho Brace, why would you take that into battle? But yeah, so, and then some stuff in there, I guess technically it could be used for battle, but it's probably not going to be. Like the Float Stone, your weight is halved. Some attacks, their damage is based on weight, but would you really go into battle carrying a Float Stone? Probably not, but it's there. And you can even put Pokeballs on them if you want, if you want to. And then you have your ability, and it will show you basically just the abilities that pertain to Nidoking. So you don't have to worry about looking up and seeing what their abilities are. You can just do it all from here. And you can see there's his hidden ability right there. Then you can look at moves, and it's only going to display to you what moves that specific Pokemon can learn, and it's going to tell you moves. And then down here there's usually useless moves. Now in some cases I do find myself using these, and there's actually I believe one Pokemon on this team that's using something that's classified as usually useless, but I think in an anything goes type situation, stuff that may normally be useless you may find yourself using, but this is more like the meta stuff up here. This is all basically building on what the meta is normally. But you can see I can slot the moves in here, and it's going to tell me their power, their accuracy, and their additional effects. And then here we can set his IVs, and then I've went ahead and set these to what I actually ended up getting. Initially I had it 31, 0, 31, 31, 31, 31, and then I just kind of filled it in. And then you can set your EVs, and you can see, of course, the base stats are going to stay. That's just what he's got. But then you can plug in your EVs, plug in your IVs, and you can see what stats he's going to have at the level that you've given him. Now, if I had set this to, say, 50, you can see the stats change. So you can play around and set up your teams, however you want to. And there's a Smogon analysis here. This is going to tell you, it's going to basically guess what you're building, what your EVs are going to be. So it's thinking I want special attack, speed, and special defense. Well, 4 in special defense. Special attack, special defense, and speed. But I actually didn't really quite go with that. I went with defense, special attack, and a little bit of special defense. Because I have a reason I'm not going with speed for a lot of this team, which we'll get into here in a second. I don't mind having good natural speed. I actually quite love the speed stat for most purposes, but I'd rather focus on his defenses and his just brute force. And that's the case with a lot of our attackers. So anyways, Nidoking, you've seen that. Nidoqueen, you've seen that. I mean, this is pretty much all filled out. She is actually, at the time of recording this, now she is 100% done, because I have actually found Shadow Ball now, which we'll talk about that in the... Actually, I think it's the episode after next, whenever we talk about that. But yeah, so, you know, there she is. Nothing really to talk about because we've already kind of covered her. Drapion, like I said, I'm not 100% sold on what his abilities or what his moves are going to be. Pursuit, I really like having it. Cross Poison. This is actually an old one. I don't know why I had Aqua Tail. I think I was really tired when I plugged in Drapion because I would never use Aqua Tail because it's 90% accuracy. Plus, I like the coverage more from Ice Fang. So that's the actual setup. And actually, I have another version of this that's actually saved on my computer where that's changed. I just don't think I changed it on here. So Ice Fang, Fire Fang, Cross Poison, and Pursuit. Even though I may change out one of these for Night Slash, I'm just not set on it because I like the idea of having two different attacks that I have a 50% chance to crit with because the boost from Sniper. Damage is multiplied by 1.5, and that's on top of what you're already critting for. It's a massive, massive boost. I can't remember the exact amount. I think you're doing like 2.3 times damage or something. It's a lot of damage, and using that Razor Claw, boosting that critical hit ratio by one stage, and then using attacks that boost it by another stage, with the more modern generations, crit is a whole lot easier to build up, right? Because one stage, this Razor Claw by default, it's giving him a 12% chance, or 12.5% chance, I think it is, to crit. But then as soon as we go to stage 2, it's 50%. And if we were to be able to push it up to a stage 3, which is possible, just not with Drapion really, but you'd be looking at, like, I think it's a 100% chance to crit at stage 3, which is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. You can actually do that with, like, Chansey, though, and Farfetch'd, and yeah. And there's actually an ability on certain Pokemon, like actually Toxapex has an ability that gives a 100% chance to crit, even though Toxapex is not built for battle like that, which we'll talk about Toxapex. But anyway, so I can kind of plug this in and play around. I've been playing around with, do I want Ice Fang? Do I want Fire Fang? Do I want Night Slash? I really want Night Slash, but I mean, because it's such a good attack, right? Because like looking here, it's a 70 power, 100% accuracy, high critical hit ratio. Just like Cross Poison. Cross Poison is also high critical hit ratio. And oh yeah, actually Cross Poison is classified as a usually useless move. But I like it. I like it. It's really, really good. Because it's 70 power, 100% accuracy, high crit ratio, and it has a lot of PP. Plus it gives you a 10% chance to poison. It's a great attack for a poison-based team. It's just not a meta attack. So even though it says usually useless moves, I do suggest you look at those because they might be useful, especially in the type of situation that we're doing with like the gyms and stuff. You know, if you're using this, don't just go on meta because we're not really playing meta, so the rules are different, you know, and what you're going to run into is different. You're not going to run into the same teams over and over again. So, but yeah, so I'm still on the fence about that. But anyways, I can't remember if I made all my updates to this list. So anyways, over here we have Crobat. And Crobat, I'm still kind of on the fence about some moves. We're kind of hitting like a gray period right here. A little bit of a gray period, or a gray section. So Crobat, I actually have it with no held item, and I'll talk about why that is. But I'm planning on it not having any held item at all. And it's going to have the Infiltrator ability. Sadly, Crobat's abilities aren't really great. It either has Inner Focus or Infiltrator. Inner Focus, this Pokemon cannot be made to flinch. It's alright, but situational. Because unless you're going up against a Dark team, there's not that many Pokemon, well, Dark attacks, I guess I should say. But there's not that much that's going to be trying to make you flinch. And even then, it's percent chance, sometimes a very low percent chance. So is Infiltrator really worth it? Not really. I mean, Inner Focus. Infiltrator is a bit better, I think. Your moves are going to ignore substitutes, reflects, light screen, safeguards, mist, aurora veils, all those defensive type moves, and substitute especially. They're annoying when you're trying to just beat them down real quick. So Infiltrator is kind of nice because you can just kind of bypass that. And especially if a Gengar comes out, throws out a substitute, you throw out Crobat, you just bypass that substitute, and so he's just wasted his HP, and then you feint him, and phew, there you go. You're good. You know, or not just Gengar, but any Pokemon coming out. I just know Gengar is like a really popular one to use Perish Song and substitute and trap and just hang out, but we can bypass that a little bit with Infiltrator. So anyways, the moves I have here, I have U-Turn. So what that does is it's going to allow me to go in, do 70 power damage, with 100% accuracy, 32 PP, which is kind of nice, and then it's going to switch out. It's really nice for just throwing that Pokemon out there, getting whatever you're doing with it, and then switching it out while still doing damage and not wasting a turn to switch out. It's kind of a nice ability, plus it's got pretty good power, honestly. And I think, no, it's not. Actually, none of his moves are classified as useless. Alright, so next up we have Leech Life. Leech Life's quite nice. It's actually 80 power. I think it's an underrated move a lot of times because I think a lot of like little bitty bugs tend to use Leech Life, and they don't have the stats to really back it up. So Leech Life tends to not really do much. So I think it's generally considered a very early game attack. I think in a lot of cases, but it's actually pretty good. It's 80 power. It is a bug type attack, and we're going to recover 50% of the damage that we deal. I was actually originally going to put Roost on here because Roost is really, really good. Of course, the Pokemon sits down, loses its flying stat, and then it regens its HP. And then it gets that flying stat, or that flying trait back at the end of that turn. Pretty nice. The only thing is, Leech Life, I can get some damage out there, and I think in the situations that I'm going to use Crobat, it's probably sufficient to keep him up for what I need him for. Next up we have Tailwind, and this is the reason I'm not specking a whole lot with speed with the Pokemon that we're building. Tailwind is an amazing move. What it does, for 4 turns, Ally's speed is doubled. Okay, doubled speed. I mean, even Nidoking, without specking speed, you throw out a Tailwind, you move into Nidoking, he's going to be outspeeding everything, which is kind of nice because my idea is that we can come out with Crobat, we can throw out a Tailwind, depending on situation if it calls for it, but throw out a Tailwind and then U-turn and then drop out a Nidoking or a Nidoqueen or a Drapion or a Mega Venusaur and just wreck until that Tailwind's gone, and then we can always switch back if need be. But kind of just a little bit of support on Crobat because maybe Crobat's maybe not the right answer for the job, and I don't want Nidoking and Nidoqueen having to soak up hits while they try to kill something off. That way they can pretty much come out because they're built to be like one-hit KO type Pokemon. Just come out, just you're dead. But I don't want them to get outsped all the time, so in the case that I need them to be really fast, I can use the Tailwind and then move. Especially going up against like ground Pokemon, it's really, really useful because they need to come out, they need to wreck. Yeah, they'll be able to outspeed it, hopefully. As long as they don't get clipped on the U-turn. I think that's probably the biggest concern because Crobat's going to go first. His speed is a monster. And then we've got Acrobatics, and I picked Acrobatics. I was originally planning on going with Brave Bird, which is pretty good. It's got 120 power, but it has that 33% recoil. And I know from personal experience how scary that recoil can be and how game-changing that recoil can be. Probably if I was using Roost, I would keep Brave Bird for the sheer power difference, but Acrobatics actually comes in close. It means we can't hold an item, but you can see it's 55 power. Power doubles if the user has no held item. And so we're getting 110 damage, or 110 power, compared to 120 power, but we don't have that 33% recoil. And I think it's a useful trade-off for not having an item, I can live without the item to be dishing out just a lot of flying damage with Crobat. But like I said, these moves aren't set in stone. Part of me wants to put... There's just so many moves I want. It's so difficult. So it's not set in stone. But right now, I have 4 EVs on his HP. I have 252 on his attack. And I have 252 on his speed. So we're going for a really, really fast Crobat that hits pretty good. I mean, it's got 306 attack. Which is pretty nice. And then all of these are physical attacks. So we've got Leech Life, we've got Acrobatics, and we've got U-turn, all being physical attacks, which benefit from that 306 on attack, because we definitely don't want to be going with the 158 special attack, because that's horrendous. And then the nature you can see is Adamant, plus attack minus special attack. I was thinking about going with speed. There's a few Pokemon that can outspeed Crobat. Especially if I don't take a speed-based nature. But I'm not too concerned about that because those Pokemon, if it was meta that we were talking about, yeah, it would be more of a concern because you got a lot of like Aerodactyls and stuff that can outspeed Crobat. But we're not talking about meta. We're talking about a gym team. So I had to break away a little bit from that meta thought process and think more about, what's going to make a very memorable team for us, for a poison team, right? And I think Crobat's a very memorable poison type to me. I think all of these are pretty memorable poison types. Okay, so next up we have Toxapex. And Toxapex, I know I've talked about it before, it's one of my favorite Pokemon. Ever since this new generation, it was just like, I love Toxapex. And then, the meta hit, and it was like, oh my gosh, everybody loves Toxapex now because it's just such a defensive monster. It's an amazing Pokemon. Pretty straightforward here. We've got Black Sludge as the item. This is actually the item that I use on my Toxapex on Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And it's really, really good. It's basically poison type leftovers, right? You can see each turn, if the holder is a poison type, it restores 1/16 of max HP, just like leftovers. But if it's not, it loses 1/8. And that's kind of nice because if you have a Pokemon going up against a Pokemon, I know Alakazams are really bad about this, doing tricks, and they try to trade over their bad items, like Flame Orbs and stuff. They try to give you those and take your good items. Well, Black Sludge kind of punishes that because if they take it, well, they've got poison. More or less. They lose 1/8 of their HP every turn, which is pretty nasty. So, and then over here we've got Regenerator. Toxapex has 3 different abilities that can either, if the Pokemon's poisoned, it's always going to crit. Cannot be paralyzed. And then Regenerator being the hidden ability. I'm dreading farming this thing up. I hated farming it on Sun and Moon as well. But on there, I had my Smeargle that could check their abilities by switching with them. And of course, on here, I do not have my Smeargle, which is kind of a bummer. I do kind of want to make an ability checker Smeargle, because it's going to be useful as we progress. So maybe if I can find one, we might make an ability check Smeargle. But Regenerator, anytime that you switch that Pokemon out, it regens 1/3 of its max HP. Okay, 1/3 of it. That's insane. I was actually, at one point, I was actually considering making this really, really nasty, just wall-off poison type team, where instead of having all these heavy hitters, I would basically go with status effects, and I made up with it for, steel types not being able to be poisoned, and I didn't want it to come down to kind of like a stalemate between us and the steel types. And so I had Scald is really, really nice because it can apply burn just in case you do run across those steel types. But I actually had this really nasty wall comp that I had built that had Toxapex and it had Amoonguss because Amoonguss can get Regenerator as well, and you can kind of build him up like he's a wall. And I actually had this just like these wall Pokemon, but just tons of defense and special defense and HP, and then they were just going to go for status. And that's not to say that down the road we might not make that comp, because it's very, very possible. Because this is just my initial 6. I do plan on leveling and getting multiple poison types, possibly all the poison types long term, so that we do have them to kind of switch in with our gym. So we could have, Toxapex, we could have Weezing, we could have Amoonguss, we could have Mega Venusaur. These are just really, really sturdy Pokemon that take forever to bring down because of self-recovering, Regenerator, healing items, stuff like that. So anyways, Toxapex has Scald. This is pretty much just exactly the same set that I run on my my comp team for Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. And so we've got Scald. This is kind of nice because Toxapex needs some kind of an attack, otherwise taunt Pokemon come out and you're just sitting there doing nothing. So Scald kind of is its only attack, and basically it's just a burn fish because you have a 30% chance to burn, and you're pretty much just throwing it out trying to get those burns in the event that you have a steel type or something that can't be affected by toxic. And then next up we have Recover, because why not more healing on Toxapex? Why not? And then we have Toxic Spikes, which of course we can throw on the ground, and then Pokemon switching out get Toxic. So that way, as soon as they come in, Toxic, just every time. I'm actually still on the fence though about for the type of battles that we're going to be running, I've been thinking about switching that to Toxic instead of Toxic Spikes. Because the biggest concern with Toxic Spikes is flying Pokemon, any Pokemon that can come out and pretty much wipe the field of hazards. Stuff like that is kind of worrisome, and if I throw Toxic on a Pokemon, unless it has its own healing, like status healing, it's pretty much got it. And since we're going to be doing single battles in my gym, or one-on-one battles, I don't know. I might do Toxic instead of Toxic Spikes. I'm still on the fence about that. And then we have Haze. Haze is just nice. Eliminates all stat changes. If we have a Pokemon that's really powering up, kind of like the Venomoth that I talked about, that was a Quiver Dance Venomoth, we can use Haze and just wipe the field with that. Because my team's actually not big on stat changes, as you can tell. So if I Haze it, that's fine. Just clear those stat changes, drop those attacks and those defenses and all that stuff that you've been boosting. Just clear the field. So Toxapex is kind of like a support tank role. And then you can see our EVs, we have 252 on HP, bringing it up to 304 on HP. And then we have 76 on defense, bringing it up to 394. And then we have 180 on special defense, bringing it up to 365. So not bad stats. I mean, it's a very, very tanky Pokemon. Very, very tanky. And can definitely hold the line. Plus, every time it switches out, it pretty much regens 101 HP every time. Not to mention the Black Sludge and the recovery. I mean, it's hard. It's really tough to bring down. I love Toxapex. And then last up, we have Mega Venusaur. I had to put this one on here because Venusaur, iconic poison-type Pokemon. And Mega Venusaur is just, he's a truck. I mean, look at those stats. He's insane. And, yeah. And I was just like, what can I put on here to just make this really, really nasty? Of course, originally I was planning on a Quiver Dance Venomoth, and that was going to make Venusaur just really, really bad. Venusaur is going to be more of like a switch him in, clear up some of the field, and switch him out, because of course you can only Mega Evolve once per battle, so we have to use that well, to say the least. But you can see the ability, he pretty much goes in and he has thick fat, regardless of what his ability is. Actually, Standard Venusaur's ability is neither of these I'm really going to benefit from. I mean, I'm not using Sunny Day. I would probably go with Overgrow, honestly. Because, for one, it's just a standard ability, so I don't have to worry about farming hidden abilities. But also, I'm not using Sunny Day, and I can actually kind of benefit from this. Whereas Sunny Day, unless the opponent's running that. Originally there was a move set that I was going to run that had Sunny Day. I'm running into the issue. And this may change, to be honest. But we'll see. So, and then, of course, his item is Venusaurite. So, his moves, I've got Giga Drain. User recovers 50% of the damage dealt, 75 power, special attack, grass type attack. It's pretty nasty. And then you couple that, if maybe I bring him out as Mega Venusaur and then I have to switch him out, so I lose that Mega status. This Overgrow, at 1/3 or less of its max HP, this Pokemon's attacking stat is 1.5 times with grass attacks. So, I mean, that's pretty nice. Coupled with Giga Drain, because we're going to get 0.5 more damage. So that's, a bit more, 25% extra health. So that's kind of nice. And then we've got Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb, 30% chance to poison the targets and 90 power, 100% accuracy. Just a good poison type ability to slot in there. And then and I went with Sludge Bomb. Of course, Nidoking and Nidoqueen, I was running Sludge Wave, and I'll talk about just really quickly why I'm running Sludge Bomb on Venusaur. Sludge Wave is higher power, and it does have a secondary effect here. And the reason I'm running that on these two is because I want raw power, because the secondary effect does not matter to me, right? Because their sheer force wipes all those secondary abilities. So we don't actually care about what the effect is. We just want an effect there with the highest possible power. Whereas Venusaur, I'm running the Sludge Bomb because of the fact that, it's lower power by 5, but it's a 30% chance to poison the target instead of a 10%. So if they have Pokemon come out that aren't poisoned, I can go ahead and have almost a 1 1/3 chance that I'm going to drop that poison on them, while getting some pretty decent damage out So that's pretty nice. And then it's coupled with Venusaur. 65 power, but it's doubled if the target is poisoned. Okay, so you're looking at 130 power attack. Once I get that poison applied, 130 power attack, which is pretty nice. it's pretty nice. So I was actually originally planning on running Venusaur on more Pokemon. I just don't have the move slots, to be perfectly honest with you. I just don't have them. And then lastly, we have Hidden Power Fire. This is so that our Venusaur, strangely enough, you wouldn't expect Venusaur to come out and have a fire attack, but that's basically to deal with steel types, because Venusaur is out there basically tossing out poisons and benefit from the opponent being poisoned. I don't want steel types to come out and mess that up. So I'm putting Hidden Power Fire on there, so you can see that it didn't save my IV changes. I can't remember which one Hidden Power Fire is. I want to say it's like Special Attack 30, maybe. I can't remember. I'll have to look. But yeah, basically your hidden power is dependent on your IVs. But we'll get into that more whenever we get into Venusaur, because Venusaur is going to be very particular. We have to have exact IVs and a couple stats so that we can ensure that our hidden power type is fire, because that's really, really key. So we've got a 60 power fire attack on our big grass poison monster that you wouldn't expect to have a fire attack. Now, of course, I kind of lose the element of surprise because, of course, making videos. If anybody watches this video, they're like, oh, he's going to have a fire attack. But it's still, I'm still going to be bringing the hidden power fire out there just to kind of clean up some of those steel types that might come out. Steel types, it's really not a big concern for this team because it's not like Steel's super effective against this team, but they're also immune to my poison, which, of course, Toxapex, Mega Venusaur, and Drapion all running that poison chance, and I don't want anything coming in and messing up. Actually, Crobat is the only one without any kind of poison attack. I feel like I should change that, but at the same time, even though it's a poison flying, it doesn't actually have access to a lot of poison type attacks. I mean, you could say there's Sludge Bomb, but that's special. We don't want a special type. Toxic, of course, is a status. I want to say there's there's Cross Poison, which we're already running that on Drapion, so it seems kind of redundant to put it on here too. Even though Nidoking and Nidoqueen are kind of similar with their loadouts, so I might consider it. And then there's Hidden Power Poison, but I don't see a point in running that. Plus it's special. Poison Fang, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's 50% chance, and that applies to Toxic. Actually might not be bad. Maybe. I don't know. I'll consider it, but that's the state of things at the moment. Which, of course, some of these, Toxapex is, well, Toxic Spikes or Toxic. I don't know. But most of these I'm still debating on some moves. Because I'm trying to get ample coverage, because, of course, running a poison team, you have to be really, really careful with straight up poison, because steel types come out and you're too poison focused, you're going to get burned. And then, of course, ground and psychic types come out. If you don't have proper Pokemon to deal with those, you're going to get burned. Of course, Crobat and Venusaur kind of give me some kind of Pokemon to kind of deal with those ground types. And then Drapion coming out to deal with the psychic types. I love Drapion because it only has the one weakness. Only the one weakness that can be exploited. So Drapion's just an all-around, just really good Pokemon. He really, really is. I think he's overlooked a lot, but he is a monster of a Pokemon. He really, really is. By the way, he's got battle armor. Pokemon cannot be struck by a critical hit, and Keen Eye. Pokemon's accuracy can't be lowered by others. Ignores their evasiveness stat. Neither of which are as good as Sniper for the build that I'm running anyways, because he's gonna hit hard. So but anyways, I wanted to bring you guys in. Like I said, I'll include a link down below if you want to check out Pokemon Showdown. You pretty much just go to the link and then click Team Builder, and there you go. And you'll have to pick your format that you're going with. Of course, if we're running Gen 7, anything goes, but you can do whatever. And you can validate it too to make sure it's all okay. But yeah, I want to show you that really, really quickly. So that's our initial 6 Pokemon. I think it's a very iconic team, and put out together with statues, they actually look pretty cool together. But of course, there's still a lot of really good poison type Pokemon that we will get into a little bit later. because Poison actually has some really, really good ones. But this is just the initial 6 that I wanted to run. So, but anyways, I think that's going to be it for this episode. I know it's probably, I'd end up talking on here a lot longer than I expected, so I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. And I know this episode's going to be a little bit longer. I do apologize, but can't be helped at this point. You've already set through it, so the damage is done. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. Stay up to date with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.